welcome back to another youth video. So as I'm filming this, it's actually the 23rd of March 2021, and that date signifies a whole year in lockdown, or living locked down. There have of course been times where we've been a bit less locked down. The summer was a bit more relaxed and we had a little bit more freedom. We could go to a few places. Some of us even managed a little holiday, whether that was in the UK or away. But it does mark a whole year of living in some sort of restricted world. This past year has brought us so much, both good and bad. It maybe has made you get a bit worried about COVID, or maybe at times it's made you really appreciate your family. There's been pros and cons to this whole past year, but we are now looking at the final stretch. So I wanted to come on here and tell you what is next. What's next for you, what's next for the church, what's next for GBC youth. So for you, I want to encourage you to make the most out of it. Make the most out of these next few weeks where it's going to be really tough. Get that quality time with your family. You don't know when we're going to get that to this extent again. But then when you are allowed out, I want to encourage you to see your friends. Go out for a coffee or go to a charity shop and support your high street. Make those memories with your friends and family, whether that's evening picnics in the park or whether that is going swimming in a lake. Make those memories which you haven't been able to make for the past year. Do something that you've really missed. Maybe that's giving your grandparents a good old hug and having a coffee and a cake. Or maybe that is as simple as going to the cinema. Do something that you have missed. Go to church. We don't know when church will be opening again, but I'm hoping it will be some point soon. And go to church. And afterwards, when you've been at church, you could play with the little kids that run around, or maybe you could even sit there with the older church family and have a cup of tea and a bit of a natter. But whatever you do, I want you to know that you only have to do this when you feel comfortable and when you feel ready. The world might say that it's safe to do so, but if you don't feel it, it's okay to wait and be a bit more cautious with letting yourself out there. Obviously, you've got to abide by the law, so I'm not saying if you feel comfortable to go give someone a hug right now to do it. I think you should wait until it's legal. But if you don't feel comfortable when they first say, that's absolutely okay. We've had to go through so much this past year. It is absolutely okay to be a bit wary and a bit cautious and not really want to leave or not really want to do anything to mess that up. However, I'm going to contradict myself here. I do want to encourage you to take that step out. Don't hide away forever. Although you can do it in your own time, of course, and although if you don't feel comfortable, then you don't feel comfortable, and that is absolutely fine, and know that, but do make that step eventually. Even if it is as simple as walking to the coffee shop, getting a takeaway coffee, and walking home again. Doing little steps to try and bring back normality, to try and get back to what we knew, or the new normal, that is what's key. If you stay hidden away forever, you're going to be constantly scared and worried and anxious, and let's try and combat that. Let's try and get rid of that, because fear is not from God. So what is happening with GBC Youth? You guys may be hoping that we can start meeting in person again, which would be awesome, because it has been a whole year of doing things online, which is very difficult because, you know, Zoom's a bit boring. But there are some big changes coming to GBC Youth. So as I'm sure most of you know, unless you are a new person watching these videos and you've never seen us before, in which case my name's Abby, I'm the youth pastor, but most of you who are watching this, I think, who have been watching these regularly, or you are part of our church already, so you would know that I am actually pregnant, and in about 8 weeks' time, I'm going to be having a little baby. Now, obviously that brings some challenges to work because most people take maternity leave, which I will be taking. So that means from April the 17th, I'm actually going to be taking a step back from doing my job as youth pastor of GBC to focus on looking after a little human being. And the really, really sad news is that unfortunately I won't be returning to GBC as youth pastor after that. I came here on a 2-year contract and that runs out in September, and unfortunately because of the maternity leave I will still be on maternity leave in September, and because of COVID and, you know, normal stuff, there are no funds to keep me going, so unfortunately I will be leaving. But that doesn't mean it's the end of GBC Youth, not at all. We have an amazing team of volunteers who, if you've been to any of our youth sessions, I'm sure you have seen and you know and you love, and they are going to be more than capable and keep the GBC Youth running. So we're still going to have Roblox and Zoom, we're still going to have Energize, and who knows, there may even be opportunity to have more or less or different and change things up over the summer term. Especially if we can meet in person, hopefully we can try and get a picnic in, and hopefully I can come along and bring the baby so you can all meet it. But that's all obviously dependent on COVID law rules and everything like that, and whether we feel it's safe. But if it is safe, we'll hopefully do something in person. So don't you worry, although I'm going away, it's not the end. And as long as Sam and I are in the church, I will continue to help the youth. I might not be a youth pastor, but I will definitely try and continue to support the youth ministry, whether that's coming to a group or whether that's just praying for you guys or just texting you, because I love you guys are awesome. The other thing I want to encourage you on is, as we go back to normal, to not forget what this past year has brought you. Maybe before you go back to normal, maybe you could write down in your notebook something that you've learned from the past year. There's been so much, and there's been so much has happened and so much has gone on in our personal lives as well as the COVID world, that actually I'm sure you've learned something, and I'm sure there are things that you can take away from this past year. And although the majority of it has been probably quite rubbish and a bit boring, that's not the whole entire year. I can always guarantee that every single one of you have had at least one good point in this past year. And if you haven't, I'm really sorry about that. But don't forget what this past year's brought us. Maybe it's brought you closer to family. Maybe it's meant that you've learned something about yourself, or maybe it's even brought you closer to God. And I want to encourage you to carry that forward into the next phase. I want to encourage you that maybe if you didn't really see your family beforehand, or you didn't really hang out with them before COVID, but then you've had to, obviously because of COVID, to continue doing that post-COVID. To continue spending quality time with grandparents and cousins and mums and dads and siblings. And most of all, I really want to encourage you to continue spending time with God. We've said this whole past year that now is the perfect time to spend time with God because we've got so much more time on our hands. But don't let that stop because we're going out of lockdown. You may become more busy, maybe you're going back to school, or if you're home educated, maybe you've got a lot more groups on. And then of course you're going to want to see your friends and do stuff at the weekend. And I don't know if you remember, but I sent you guys one of these, which is Refuel. I want to encourage you to come up with your own Bible studies. In it, if you haven't got one, in it is got a little daily devotional for every day. And there's 5 minutes of worship, 5 minutes of Bible study and 5 minutes of prayer. I want to encourage you to continue doing that even through when we're meeting together again. Now, as you guys are watching this, you have officially broken up for the Easter holidays, which is maybe exciting, maybe not. But I hope you all have a lovely, lovely Easter. This does mean that we don't have any of our groups happening. However, on Wednesday, if you are part of GBC, we are going to have a bit of a party to say goodbye, to say an official goodbye to me. Although I'm still around, you're still going to see me at church and places like that. But an official goodbye, basically, we're just using it as an excuse to have a good old party. So if you want to come to that, it's at 4:30 on Wednesday, and we'd love to see you there. Obviously, it's on Zoom, but your parents have the link, so that's fine. But if I don't see you there, then I hope you all have a wonderful Easter, and we'll see you soon. Bye!